How do music producers really make money off songs, or as we call them, placements? This is something that up until this year, really, we found extremely confusing and complicated, which it is. And the more you get into it, the more you realize you don't know anything at all, and there's more and more to figure out. But don't worry, because today we're going to be explaining in the easiest way possible the ins and outs of how producers make money off their placements, collecting royalties, upfront payments, dealing with labels, and more. Because if you don't understand the music business, to be honest with you, you'll get taken advantage of and left behind unpaid. Trust us, artists and labels aren't going to be there helping you and ensuring you get paid the correct amount. A lot of the time, they won't have your best interest in mind. So stick around to the end of this video, as we're also going to be breaking down some real life placements to figure out how much these producers have made off the songs in different scenarios, accounting for the many variables that can be. Some of these will surprise you. Let's get straight into this. So let's start with this. The three main income streams that a producer gets when they land a song are these. First being the beat sale, also known as the upfront payment, also known as the advance or the producer fee. These definitions all have slightly different meanings, so we'll get into that soon. And also, depending on genre, country, deal, the status of a producer, sometimes you won't even be getting paid an upfront payment or a beat sale, as we'll talk about later in the video. And this payment is usually paid just via a bank transfer from a label or an artist, or maybe it's even a beat sale on BeatStars. We'll get deeper into this in a second. The second thing is the publishing royalty, also known as the composition, or another way to look at it is the songwriters and the composers of the melodies, the lyrics that were in the song. I've heard it being explained like if you were to print out a song into sheet music with the lyrics and the melodies on the paper, that is the composition, meaning the people who are involved with that are entitled to publishing royalties. However, these days, often beat makers who just do drums and everyone involved in the song will get a percentage of publishing. Publishing royalties are earned from public performances, which can be anything from a radio stream to a song playing in a public place, or even the music that plays inside of an airplane. Also, a small percentage of streaming royalties, called mechanical royalties, from streaming services is also counted as publishing royalties. And producers get paid publishing royalties via two things. One being a performance rights organization, also known as a PRO, which you register in your own country wherever you are in the world. For us in New Zealand, it's called APRA AMCOS. In the United States, you may have heard it's called BMI or ASCAP. And the second thing is having some sort of publishing admin deal. We use BeatStars Publishing, which is partnered with Sony. There are also other alternatives. But again, we're going to cover publishing royalties more in depth soon. And the third thing is the master royalty. This is the revenue generated from a recorded song or composition, from playing a song on streaming services like Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, YouTube, and more, as well as buying a song, or the more professional term, copies sold. The master is famously the royalty that if an artist is signed to a label, labels will take the majority of this, usually around 95% of this royalty. If you're lucky as a producer and you get a few percent of the master, this is something the label will pay directly to you. However, many producers never see master royalties, as we'll explain soon.
Working with independent artists versus working with a label. What actually is the difference? Over half of our placements in the last 3 years have been with independent artists. There are more and more artists emerging that is staying independent and not signing to labels. And at the most, just having a manager do the communication for them, sort out the deals, sort out the negotiations. Whether an artist is independent or not can change the terms of the deal and just how much you can get paid quite drastically. As Marcos mentioned before, if you're working with a label, labels most likely will be taking 95% of those master royalties, and you're going to be left with 5% or less to be split with the other co-producers. However, independent artists have full ownership and full control over their masters, meaning when working with an independent artist, you can negotiate a higher master percentage. And especially today, with independent artists getting millions and millions of streams, this can mean a lot more money for producers working with these independent artists. But with getting a higher royalty percentage than you would with a label, you're very likely to get a small upfront fee or nothing at all. At the end of the day, a placement is a placement, and it's just important to understand what you're working with and what you can negotiate to. Alright, let's dive into upfront payments a little more. Now, upfront payments can range anywhere from just a small sale on BeatStars all the way up to $20,000 even more from a label. This is all dependent on a range of things from expected streams, the size of the artist, the budget of the label, your status as a producer, and whether the artist is independent or not. From multiple sources and videos we've watched, an industry standard for an upfront payment usually will be around $2,000, even getting up to $20,000 plus on the high end, to be split among all the producers on the record. Let's say Travis Scott's team has got a $20,000 budget for the song to pay to the producers for the upfront fee. If you and 4 other people are on the record, so 5 producers all up, you're most likely just going to split that evenly and end up with $4,000 for yourself, minus taxes, minus your manager, all this kind of stuff factors into it. Just because a label might have a budget of $10,000 for a song does not mean that you're getting $10,000. In our experience, you should never really be settling for any less than $2,000. When you think about how much money the labels are making, you should never feel bad for asking more than what the original proposed terms are. With that being said, if it's your first placement with a mid-tier artist signed to a label, you can't just go and demand $10,000 for your upfront. You gotta understand where you are on the level of the industry and what your worth is. Now, a couple keywords that you may hear get thrown around or you might see on the contract that could really just change the whole deal for you, maybe get you paid a lot less. These are super important definitions to understand. Firstly, is your upfront payment or advance recoupable? What does a recoupable fee mean? To keep it very simple, let's say you're the only producer in a song, you get paid a $2,000 fee, which is recoupable, and you get 1% on the master side for your royalties, which is a recoupable master point. This means that the song needs to generate $2,000, which is your upfront payment, from 1% of the entire song before you see any money from that 1% of your master royalty. And let's just use the example that a song makes $4,000 per million streams, meaning 1% of that is only $40. So you would need to 100 million, 50 million. The song that you produced would need to get around 50 million streams before you see any money from the master royalties. That is what recoupable means. A non-recoupable upfront payment means that no matter what your fee was, let's say it's $2,000 and you've got that 1% master royalty, the same situation, but if it's non-recoupable, you start seeing money from that 1% master royalty straight away. Keep in mind, is your upfront payment going to be split with other collaborators? Is your upfront payment going to be a buyout, meaning that you may not even be offered master royalties? Sometimes you may not even be offered publishing royalties from a buyout. And also, are you selling your beat or sample exclusively to this artist or to this label? If you sell something exclusively, you're selling the rights to the sample or beat that you made over to the label or artist while still retaining the copyright of the composition, meaning you're entitled to your publishing royalties. But this means that you can't use that same sample or beat, give that to another artist and get paid from that as well. Each one of these things can drastically change how much you want to negotiate for and how far you're willing to go to get the deal you want. Now, from our understanding, especially in the hip hop industry, generally in contracts with major labels, your sample or beat is probably going to be sold exclusively and you're going to be offered an advance, meaning that it will be recoupable. The song will have to generate millions and millions and millions of streams before you see any money from your master royalties. 90% of the time, music producers will never recoup their masters, meaning they never see money on the master side. Keep in mind that a producer like OZ, whenever he lands a placement, he's getting a big upfront. He's getting publishing, master royalties, non-recoupable. Most likely. Labels are going to treat a respected music producer like OZ a lot different to somebody who's only had a few placements, nobody really knows their name, and who's still on their way up in the industry. Don't take it personally if you're not offered 50 grand for a placement. Treat your first few placements as learning experiences to understand as much of the business side of music as possible.
Next up, let's cover in-depth publishing royalties. From experience in the hip-hop music scene, the industry standard publishing split is 50% to the artist or artists, if there's multiple artists, and 50% to the producer or the co-producers. It's important to understand that this can change between genres, countries, and different agreements. I've even heard before that some people only want the actual songwriters, the people who made the lyrics and the melodies, to get publishing, and that beat makers shouldn't get publishing. But again, from our experience, if you're in the hip-hop scene, it's pretty much always going to be 50% to the producers. Often for us, it's we've made the sample and someone else has made the beat, so we get 25% publishing, 12.5 for me and 12.5 for Sean, and then 25 for the other producer, 50% for the artist. And in other cases, publishing can be split between who contributed the most to a song. Publishing is one of those things where if you have contributed to a song, no matter if your upfront and your master goes out the window, you deserve your publishing. It's a basic human right. There's been times when we've just been in such a sticky situation, we can't even get in contact with a certain team and we can't get paid the upfront or master. Maybe it's not even worth it because the song didn't go too crazy, but we can always publish the song with our publisher and then eventually see that money once the publishing comes in. Side note, publishing takes a really long time to actually be generated and paid out. Usually about 6 to 9 months to see any money from publishing, and then even the first money can be quite small until it starts to compound and build up. So this is not a get rich quick scheme at all. To collect your publishing, you're going to need a publishing rights organization. Each country has their own thing. For us, it's APRA-AMCOS. In the US, it's BMI or ASCAP. In France, it's called SACEM. And then also you'll need an admin publishing company. We use BeatStars Publishing, and the good thing about BeatStars Publishing for us and our experience is that when we submit a song with BeatStars Publishing, they automatically send it to APRA-AMCOS, our PRO, so we don't have to manually go into APRA and submit all our songs. They just send the details to them. Your admin publishing deal or company is going to collect a whole bunch of royalties from different organizations and stuff all over the world that you can do manually, but they do it for you. These admin deals usually take 20% of all those earnings, but it saves a hell of a lot of time you'd otherwise spend manually submitting all these songs. Next, let's cover master royalties again more in depth. Also known as points on a split sheet. They all refer to the same thing. Master points is where most of the money is made in music, and we recommend doing all you can to actually get as many master points as you can and actually own your music. Labels and artists may convince you with money to give up your master points, but again, this is the money that you're getting from streaming services. It's the bulk of the money, so do all you can to own these points. With a major label, the typical master points you're going to be getting is between 1 and 5%. 5% is definitely on the high end. The most common number we've heard keep coming up is 3%. And that is also to share. So if there's 3 producers, you're going to get 1% each. If it's just you, you'll get those 3 points. Again, like we said earlier, this could be recoupable or not recoupable. So you need to keep that in mind as well. And when working with an independent artist, in our opinion, and what we've heard is a fair amount, is anything from 10 up to maybe 25, 30% if you're working with an independent artist. And the way it's done with an independent artist can be really easily done with DistroKid, United Masters, Amuse, any of these online distributors. Trust me, if you get an artist who actually does good numbers on a song on Spotify and they send you a DistroKid invite link for 15%, that is one of the best situations. You don't even have to think about it. The money will just come in eventually. We have multiple songs where we've been added on an invite link with one of these things. We have songs on Symphonic, 1RPM, DistroKid, all getting a few 100,000 streams. You will actually be surprised with the amount of money you can get. Recently, we had a situation where a song was released with our sample. We found it a few days after release. They hadn't contacted us, so we found an email. We got in contact with them and started going back and forth with them. Soon we realized they weren't officially signed to a label, so the artist was partially independent, although he did have a manager figure with him. And in this case, we weren't surprised. Since they were independent, they didn't want to give us an upfront. So we actually settled with a percentage on the master royalty, which was done through one of these online distributors. Looking at it now, we got 10% on the master. Isn't even a crazy number for an independent artist, but it's more than double you'd get with a label. Along with 25% on publishing, the song performed decently, over 500,000 on Spotify and a few million on YouTube. And so far, it's generated us about 500 USD, and it's only been out for a couple of months. And we didn't really do anything for it. I mean, the guy got the sample from a free sample pack, I think. And when you have multiple situations like that, you can see how it really adds up with independent artists. A song that's making 50 USD in a month, in a year from now, will probably still be making a few dollars a month. And then imagine you've got hundreds of songs in your catalog, you keep building it, you can see it starts to add up.
Now, one thing that lots of you producers, I know we were thinking about this a lot. How much money do you actually get from 1 million streams on a song that you've produced? The truth is, there is no definite answer. It varies from country to country because of the varying costs of things like Spotify subscriptions. Some countries literally get paid half of the amount as others do from Spotify, purely because of the country where majority of the streams are coming from. Again, also things that we've mentioned before, like radio play. Are they performing the song live? Is it being used on TV shows? Movies, all these things just have a massive impact on the amount of money that can be generated from 1 million streams on a song you've produced. Let's say you've got 5% master royalties on 2 different songs. One song's in Brazil, the other song's in the UK. They could get the exact same streams and you're going to be seeing a very, very different number in the income you receive from both of them. We've created 2 hypothetical situations, creating a realistic amount of how much people are getting from master royalties, publishing royalties, and an upfront fee based on multiple different variables. Starting with Simon. Simon has just found out he's got a placement with a song with a US artist that is signed to a major label. He made this beat with one other producer and agreed to the following terms: a $2,000 upfront fee to be split with the other co-producer that is also recoupable, which in some cases people would call it a $2,000 advance. He's also getting 4 master points to split with the other co-producer. Again, the $2,000 needs to be recouped off the 4% before he sees any money from his master points. 50% publishing or composition royalties to be split evenly with the other co-producer. Over a few years, the song gets 20 million streams. Let's take a look. Simon got $1,000 for his upfront after splitting with his co-producer. Typically, a song with 20 million streams has not generated enough money to recoup $2,000 on 2% of the master. So no money from the master. And Simon has made roughly maybe around $3,000 with publishing. So all up, we're looking at maybe $4,000 for a song with 20 million streams with the splits that I've just mentioned. And also, I've just estimated that each million streams generates $4,000 for the song. So that's situation 1, a rough idea of what a placement could look like. Now, hypothetical situation 2, Derek. Derek's just produced a song for an independent artist from the Dominican Republic. He made the beat completely by himself and he agreed to the following terms: no upfront fee, the independent artist has no budget, and he can't afford to pay Derek. He's agreed to 25% master royalties, and the reason he's got a high master royalty percentage is because he didn't get an upfront fee. And then he's got his 50% publishing royalties all to himself as he made the beat completely by himself. Now the song generates 10 million streams over a few years. Let's see how much money Derek is looking at. No money for the upfront, $0 there. We estimated that Derek probably would have earned around $5,000 off his master royalties and $2,500 off his publishing, assuming that for every million streams in the Dominican Republic, it might be $2,500. By the way, there is a website which shows the average amount paid out by Spotify per million streams for every country in the world. Good to know. All up, Derek's looking at $7,500. Again, this is a completely hypothetical situation, but this is just a rough idea of how much you could be looking at for a similar deal like this. And in this case, even if the song has less streams with an independent artist, a higher percentage of the master and publishing royalties is actually what's going to make you more money in the long run.
We're going to leave you with a couple of things, some of our opinions and our takes on the whole music business. First of all, it's extremely unlikely that getting 1 or 2 placements is going to be life-changing money. You could literally get a #1 on the charts, a song with Drake, and you still won't even be able to buy anything crazy. We look at it like you have to just build a bunch of small investments, get as many songs as you can get, and get them all earning little bits of money, let them compound, focus on ownership of your music, your masters, your publishing, and over time, that will pay off. Secondly, diversifying your income. So obviously, this whole video is about placements, and it's a big part of being a producer, but we swear by focusing on other things as well, diversifying our income with things like selling our beats online, selling our sample packs, starting a brand where we can sell different things. We almost think it's a necessity. You don't want to just be reliant on placements. Trust us. It can be a stressful business, and you don't want that to be your only income source. And lastly, your relationships in the music business. There's a lot of scenarios we've been in where you really want to push it and go for more, or you feel like you've been ripped off a little bit, and sometimes we have to stop ourselves and realize, is pushing it to get a little bit more money now going to hurt a potential relationship that would end up in a lot more placements and different opportunities in the future? And is it worth it getting more money now to potentially lose out on more later? And a lot of the times it's not. You have to realize that there's a certain amount you can get at the status you are at any one time. Have strong relationships, because that is really everything in this game. If you do have any major label placements that you haven't been paid for, you have coming up, and you think we'd be able to help you, you can message us. We're also going to be doing a video in the future where we take you through step by step from us hearing a song with an artist who has over 6 million monthly listeners to registering it, to getting in contact with them, taking you step by step how that process is done. Check out this video here if you want to know how to get more placements to then have to worry about all this stuff. Cheers for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.